Konami Studios.
Truth Seekers, Season 1. This is the latest show to come to us at Amazon Studios. You know, they got us The Boys, they got us Miss Maisel, and now we got Truth Seekers. So this one was on my radar. I knew about it for a little bit. I was kind of excited to see what this was going to look like. It's Simon Pegg, it's Nick Frost. It's a paranormal romper, and it's pretty interesting what they actually do in this show. Without getting too deep into the spoilers, I always do a non-spoiler review for all my stuff. It's pretty interesting. I don't think it's their best work together, because how can you top some of those Edgar Wright things, you know? Those are hard to top, but these guys, you could definitely feel their voice and their presence in the script and in like the actual narrative of the story, which works for me. I think they both do a good job, both interesting stuff, so it's fine. I do want to say that I think this show is fun. I don't put it up there as the best thing that Amazon worked on. I also don't think it's their most creative endeavor. It's just a nice little comedy / horror that you can just enjoy, and it's kind of fun. So this is the story of Nick Frost. He is playing a character who works at like this, you know, like installs like satellites and satellites, because we're in the era of satellites still. I don't know why I said satellites, but my old brain's just like, yeah, satellites. He's installing like cables and stuff for like internet access in these places, but on the side, he's a paranormal investigator who has a YouTube channel where he talks about paranormal stuff, and he calls himself the Truth Seeker, and he goes to all these different places and finds things that were potentially horror related, or there's like paranormal activities that happen there, that kind of stuff. And it's kind of just, I mean, he doesn't really find that much, you know, just simple stuff that he does. But in the case of this show, he stumbles onto a potentially big life-altering thing that could change the fate of the world and his own world individually. He really holds this show together for me, I think, just because, you know, he's a seasoned actor. You kind of understand the tropes that his character goes through, but he also makes it work in that way, you know, like living with the begrudging dad, you know, being kind of this ex-husband, and we learn more about his wife there. There's a lot of stuff like that that works perfectly for his character, but at the same time, he's not as like quick with a joke or quick on his feet as we've seen him in other properties or in other things. This is just kind of like he's kind of aging into that more like adult, I don't even want to say adult, but just more like that elder role where he's kind of just, okay, we'll let the young people do all the heavy lifting here. And the young actors, they do a really good job here. Samson Kayo and Emma D'Arcy, they really hold this show together in a way too. They definitely have this really interesting chemistry that you probably wouldn't expect from a show like this, but it definitely helps just add another layer to what this show is. The way they respond to certain things in the paranormal world that they're seeing, and just how they act towards each other and to the larger world. I think it's very compelling stuff. For the most part, it works. Sometimes the jokes don't land, but that's with a lot of stuff, you know. Sometimes you go for the swing, sometimes you miss, and that's okay. As long as it takes the chance, I think it's a good idea. You're not going to land every joke, it's impossible to, and that's fine, but it also plays up the horror angles a lot more than you'd expect. So I went into this with the mindset this is going to be a fresh cut comedy from the guys I've seen in the Cornetto trilogy. I'm excited to see what they work on. It gets pretty dark and pretty intense in a lot of moments, actually, and it's not just like subtle scares, it's straight on horrific stuff. It can get very intense. You could be on the edge of your seat. You know it's a comedy, and that works to like the benefit of the show. You know it's a comedy, but you're still scared at what could potentially happen, because you don't know how the show's going to play out. I mean, we know our main characters aren't really going to get harmed, but we don't know what's going to come out at them, how that's going to play up, and what that's going to do. And I think that really helps the show find its ground, because the comedy, to me, doesn't work as well as the horror in this. And that's not a bad thing. There are jokes that work. There's some really funny stuff with the character of Elton John. That's a good joke, too. Where he's worked in a bunch of different places, and he kind of knows just random facts about random things. That's a funny joke. I think that works well for that character and in that setting. But when you get to like the dark, gritty horror stuff, that's where it really shines to me. That's where the show finds its footing. I think that's really cool. Malcolm McDowell's in this, and he does a really good job. I'm always fascinated by Malcolm McDowell whenever he does a project, because this was like the king of like the 70s and that era, you know? And now here he is just doing this. And it makes sense because it seems like something he'd work on, but I'm always just so happy to see him in projects like this, just because it's such a nice surprise, something I really enjoy seeing. And I also got to say this too, this show really likes YouTube. which I think is a good thing because we live in an era, love it or hate it. I mean, you're watching this, so you kind of like it or you tolerate it. But we live in an era where YouTube is very prominent, social media is very prominent, influencers are very prominent, people want to be known for the stuff they do. We live in that era. So seeing a show actually taking it seriously, even if he's not even like a big channel, there's 2 characters in the show actually that have YouTube channels, and they're not like big channels where we're seeing like a Logan Paul or some stupid piece of shit being like this high society type who's just like got all this influence. They're just passionate about talking about stuff, and I think that's a really cool thing to see when it comes to people who do YouTube stuff, because, you know, I do this because I'm passionate about it, and having that on a television show where someone's like, I love Paranormal Activity so much, that kind of feeling, that I want to talk about it with people, and maybe someday something will happen with it. I think that's a pretty cool angle, something that I definitely think works to the benefit of the show, and I think just, if you are even a small-time YouTuber, as I am, or you just love that industry, it's just nice seeing it portrayed in a positive light in something that's like a big property. I think that's really cool, and it really made me smile, because, you know, YouTube is gonna be around a while. Love it or hate it, it's gonna be here. So accept that it's part of the culture now, and we can see things in a different way. It definitely has some good stuff on Comic Cons. I think that's pretty cool too. Like I said, all the characters work really well. The story plays out in a really fascinating way. It's 8 episodes long. You're going to get everything you need in those 8 episodes. It's going to be horrific. There's going to be some good jokes. You're going to enjoy yourself a lot. If not only for the reason that Simon Pegg has the best hair of his career in here, and they play it up as a joke. There's so much great with Simon Pegg's character. I think a lot of people are going to like him, and it's going to be something that's going to make you just go, that's funny. I enjoy that. Truth Seekers. It's a nice little binge, nice way to fill out time while we wait for Mandalorian to come out or other big properties, but I think a lot of people will enjoy it, especially if you are a fan of YouTube or paranormal stuff or just Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. They're at their best. Not their best, actually. They're at their best for the time they are now. Like, they're older men. Sometimes you gotta sit back, relax, and let the younger generation take over. And I think both of them realize that in a really cool way. So, Truth Seekers, Season 1, I am going to give a 7 out of 10. And thank you guys so much for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.